Director of Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center at the Consulate General of India in Durban, Dr. Chaitanya Prakash Yogi, Mr. Advait Gadnayak, Mr. Brian Zava, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, Mr. Siabonga Hadebe, Dr. Pawan Soni, Mr. Amit Kala, esteemed colleagues, Ms. Cheryl Banwarilal, Ms. Kavita Solanki, Mr. Piyush Khandelwal, distinguished guests and audience members, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to today's special program on the day of International Museum Day. Museums are places where time is transformed into space. And like the great Spanish artist Pablo Picasso said, give me a museum and I shall fill it. Today, in our midst, we have a renowned artist, poet, researcher. Joining us live from Jaipur, India, is Mr. Amit Kala. Mr. Amit Kala was born on the 7th of February 1980 in Jaipur, Rajasthan, and did his masters in art and aesthetics from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and studied art and history from the National Museum Institute, specializing in ancient Indian art. His strength and work is one that represents Indian artists' quests for the indigenous tinta rather than the superficial inventory of native motifs. There is nothing about his work which relies on the static Indian identity. In the context of New India, with its glamour and explosive economics, he is searching for new representation of the innermost dramas of his culture while maintaining universality and individuality. There is a certain nativity in both his painting, writing, which represents detachment but contains a knowing gesture of assurance. I present to you Mr. Amit Kala, joining us live from Jaipur, India, for his remarks.
Okay, namaste to all of you on the occasion of International Museum Day. Uh, I'm very much thankful. I want to convey my thanks to Chaitanya Prakash ji, Director, Swami Vivekanand Cultural Center, and at the Consulate General of India, Durban. Uh, Thank you so much, sir, for inviting me and give me a chance. As I noticed to the word museum, which invoked a deep memories of my student life. Since I was in National Museum, I did my masters. I studied there for art history. So when I was studying at art history at National Museum, so it also took me back to the journey of wandering seer. We have the concept of wandering seer, Ramta Jogi. So it took me back to the concept of wandering seer, exploring the captivating and connotations of visual imagery, which truly based on the aesthetic understanding of entire life, where seeing something to seeing is extremely important to experience the unseen, to experience the unheard, to experience the untouched, to experience the unknown behind what is seen. So, seen is very important. It has lots and lots of metaphors of it. In fact, it sounds very philosophic. It sounds very philosophic, but it has its meaningful conceptions, which will help us to make a better understanding in order to understand the world of impressions and images. Seeing is the reflection. Seeing is the reflection of consciousness, which gives a satisfaction to self. Inclusiveness is one of the integral part of it. Inclusiveness. So it's a exploration. It's an exploration. So it's an exploration of self. Seeing is one of the kind of exploration of self, where we explore our own existence. So it has a lot of its own metaphors. It's a kind of a live dialogue. To see something, to visualize something, it's a kind of a live dialogue through visuals. A balance of information, and feels. You know, there is a we have to make a connectivity in between information and feel. So, which purely based on the process of contemplation. According to Greek beliefs, the museums are the place to contemplate. People go there, people visit museums and they contemplate. It's more than to see. Perceiving is there, contemplation is there. So, according to Greek beliefs, museums are the place to contemplate, where one has to act, one has to connect, and then they have to reflect uh, in the society. So, it's a medium to connect, it's a medium to reflect, it's medium to act, which opens the new gateways, which opens the new doorways of true knowledge, which is full of insight, which is full of wisdom. So insight and wisdom is very important. Dekhne mein insight and wisdom. We have such understandings of seeing. So there is a dialogue in between seer and seeing. A lot of things happens in between seer and seeing. When you see an object, a lot of things happens. We have one ancient Indian this text, Drigdrashya Vivek. It's a very philosophical text. It opens opens lots and lots of dimension of seeing. As like John Berger says in his book, The Way of Seeing, which is very famous during 80s and 70s. So we have that ancient text, Drigdrashya Vivek, in which the scholar quoted that Rupam Drishyam Lochanam, Drig Tad Drishyam, Driktu Manasam. It says, from form is perceived and the eye is perceiver. Form is perceived and the eye is perceiver. Eye is perceived and the mind is perceiver. Mind is perceived, but the self is perceiver, but the self never perceive. So this is the thing. This we have to understand, that self is never perceived by other. So seer is not only an physical eye. We are not talking about the physical eye. We are talking about the internal eye, the eye of wisdom in between seer and seeing. I think that it's little bit difficult, but I'm coming to that point on the relationship of virtual and real. It has its lot and lots of manifestations. So manifestations are important, very subtle manifestations. Museums are not only the storehouses, but they are the place to realize the self by seeing, by observing, by interacting, by providing the real breathing space. So they have to play tremendous role. Museums have to play tremendous role in making the larger understanding of a larger understanding to conceive the genuine depth and intelligence. As we are discussing the relevance of virtual museums, everything is very virtually, there is a tremendous virtual play all over. So when we are talking about the virtual museums, so I would like to say that that almost from past 2 decades, when I was student, so almost from past 2 decades, globally we are trying to make these virtual mediums as an integral part of museum studies, integral part of museum setups. In Indian context, if I talk about Indian context, although Indian museums are on the virtual mode, there are people sitting from the museums, they will say that our museums are on virtual mode. But we claim that, But when I gone through all the various sites, I'm little bit disappointed, because what I observed, that various websites are like the visual documentation only. We are presenting visual documentation, not the visual virtual, that virtual museums. We are unable to create, still we are unable to create the virtual experience. Everything is documented. You can go on the site, you can see the picture, having they have their details, but experience is lack. There is a lack of experience. So we have to make our sites experiential. Experience is very important. So we have to think apart from digital documentation. We have to make them more organically more rich. We have to make them organically more rich, more interactive. We have to try our best to fill up the gaps in between virtual and real. Aesthetics is the experience. So we have to cultivate that extra aesthetics through this virtual medium also. We have to work hard on that. So since due to this corona problem, we all are going through this social distancing. There is a lockdowns everywhere. It's a beautiful time. It's a nice time to play something different, especially to play with these virtual mediums. We have been living with limitations. So such virtual journey of museum will definitely help us to reconnect, to reconnect with the valuable narratives of the socio-cultural dimensions, along with the association of transcending time and space. So through such mediums, we have to establish the proper opportunities of cognitive learning and to be the real seeker. So I think that
Thank you so much, Mr. Amit Kala, for your remarks. Our next speaker is Mr. Siyabonga Hadebe, who is a reputable public administrator and a keen researcher. He spent the early years of his career as a diplomat, but his recent experience includes serving in senior roles in mining investments promotion, international labor market issues, as well as holding a position of an economic advisor in the office of the country's deputy president. As a man of the world, he also has a strong passion for people, languages, culture, and national systems of other countries, including politics, institutions, and economics. Mr. Siyabonga Hadebe holds an MCOM and an MA degree and has an interest in an array of areas, including politics, energy, resources, global affairs, and broad socio-economic issues. He writes for local and international media. I present to you Mr. Siyabonga Hadebe for his remarks.
Good morning to colleagues in South Africa, and good morning to our friends in India, one of my very beautiful countries in the world. I saw that one of the participants is from Jaipur. I spent some time in Jaipur in the beautiful palace there, where I will always go back. So whenever you talk about virtual museums, I always think that there are some things that you cannot visualize. And definitely it's the experience that comes with the richness that you get in visiting. However, we need to realize that our world is changing very, very fast. And with the coronavirus attacking basically everybody else and everyone hiding behind high walls, we must find ways of at least reaching out to the world. But also the world must reach us. Well, when it comes to museums, it's quite interesting that at least some people had a foresight of some sort as early as in the 90s, and they thought about making this experience a little bit virtual to make museums a little bit accessible. When I got the invitation from Madame not so long ago, I just completed one of the articles that I did for one of the publications in Canada, which says language is the world. By this, my interpretation is that there is not even a single world out there. There are many worlds, and usually they come with language. There is a Spanish world, there is an English world, there is a Hindi world. There are so many worlds. Usually, language is the principal mode of taking us there. Then we have the beauty of museums, which is presentation of culture, presentation of history. So museums are also that bridge, a conduit that takes us out to other worlds. In the past few days, while I was sitting at home, I got invited to visit some of the beautiful museums, but mostly they are in Europe, France, Netherlands, and that's when I got a glimpse of how a virtual museum looks like, and I was quite fascinated. The issue that I have in mind is that the experience of having these virtual museums is that with the internet now widely available across the world, we can take advantage of these platforms. But my talk we'll just look at the limitations of this, because we come from developing countries, both of us, India and South Africa, and with so many of our people not having access to basic things like food, internet, and so forth. If you have a virtual museum, which is supposed to give people an experience, give people an access to a world that they should at least appreciate, that experience should come free of charge. It shouldn't be expensive. What's happening is the small band of, let's say, the privileged that can sit around this meeting and chat, thinks that that's the world that exists out there. Unfortunately, it's not. Our people don't even have jobs. With the coronavirus ravaging our economies, the situation is likely to worsen. The point that I'm getting to is that before we can even imagine this new world that some of us have a privilege of accessing, we need to go back, just a step back, one step, and think about how do we bridge inequalities, how do we bridge the digital divide. That is what is separating us now. If you talk as a person in the Northern Hemisphere, now politically speaking, say you are seated in Europe or in the United States or even Japan, your experience, you might not even relate, but I'm glad that I'm talking to my colleagues from a country that is similar to ours, which is India, that we face the same challenges. So before we move quickly, yes, we are in the arts. We are talking the arts now, but unfortunately, everything is interwoven. We need to attend to this space. You can say, how do we make museums, which in most cases carry what I would always say, it's national patrimony. We are proud to have a leader like Dr. Lutuli, who's a leader in our society, but how many people can get to that museum? Probably not so many, because of the realities that I'm mentioning. So if national patrimony has to go back to its real meaning, we need to imagine, how do we make museums accessible? So the internet, as one of the media that we have at our disposal, is offering us that opportunity. Almost everybody I know around me has got a cell phone, which means that cell phones can start being used as a way of getting to accessing these museums. But the problem is that data costs are still very high in most parts of the world, including ours. So these are some of the things that we need to imagine and talk about before we move too fast. So I'm glad that there are some of our colleagues here who are curators and museum managers that can start to imagine the world that talks to the developing countries. That is my input for this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Siyabonga Hadebe. Those were really deep in profound remarks by you. Next on our program, we have something a bit different, out of the ordinary. A virtual, experimental, one of its kind, state-of-the-art museum. Situated at the banks of Kashi is a specialized museum in Varanasi, located in Manmahal, a structure from the 16th century. The eastern facade of the building faces the river Ganga and was inaugurated by Honorable PM Mr. Narendra Modi in 2019. The museum showcases different cultural aspects of the city in a digital medium, and some of the essential aspects of Kashi are illustrated here. So sit back, relax, and let us take you to an experience of a lifetime, to experience Kashi, Varanasi, or Banaras, as you call it, which is known as the world's oldest city, or an eternal city. Let us take you to the museum Man Mahal.
बनारस का रस अगर चखना हो बरबस, मान महल मंदिर चले आइए ना बस। काशी का विहंगम दिखेगा नजारा, छूते ही घंटी शिव पूजन होगा सारा। इतिहास काशी का पूरा खुलेगा, प्राचीन नगर 3D में नया सा दिखेगा। बनारसी पान चौचक का चढ़ेगा सुरूर, काशी की गलियों में भटकना जरूर। काशी की कलाओं का देखना समझना जादू, काठ पत्थर मिट्टी मीना पीना खाना अष्टधातु। संगीत यहां स्वयं अपने हाथों बजाना, संगीत यहां स्वयं अपने हाथों बजाना, मेला रामलीला का मजा भी उठाना। वस्त्राणसी के वस्त्रों का रंग सब पर चढ़ेगा, पत्रकारिता शब्द साहित्य का डंका बजेगा। गंगावतरण की कहानी दिखेगी रोशनी की जबानी। यज्ञ होम हवन की अग्नि तुम्हें है जलानी। काशी के यात्री, बनारस के बसैया, सबसे मिलो यहां आके बहना भैया। योग अखाड़े आयुर्वेद से बदन का बनाना, फिर मृत्यु मोक्ष मुक्ति में सब फना हो जाना। आए हो तो गंगा में डिजिटल डुबकी भी लगा लो, स्वच्छ उसे रखने की सौगंध भी उठा लो। इस बनारस की महिमा अनोखी है भाई, आशीष अपार देती इसे सदा गंगा माई। प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी की प्रेरणा से बना अद्भुत आभासीय अनुभूति संग्रहालय रस रस बनारस, मान मंदिर दशाश्वमेध घाट, वाराणसी, कूजे में काशी।
Indeed, that was a very beautiful, exhilarating showpiece. It definitely shows us what digitalization can do for us and our minds. Next on the program, we have a speaker joining us live from Bangalore, India. And that is Dr. Pawan Soni. Dr. Pawan Soni is an innovation evangelist by profession and a teacher by passion. He is the founder of Inflection Point, a strategy and innovation consulting. Apart from being an adjunct faculty at the IIM Bangalore, Pawan has consulted with leading organizations on innovation and creativity, including 3M, Amazon, BCG, Deloitte, Flipkart, Honeywell, and Samsung, amongst others. Pawan was the only Indian to be shortlisted for the prestigious FT and McKinsey Brenton Power Award for the Best Business Book of the Year 2016. He's a gold medalist from MBM Engineering College, Jodhpur, and did his PGDIE from the NITIE, Mumbai. Pawan finished his doctoral studies from the IIM Bangalore in the domain of innovation management. I present to you Dr. Pawan Soni for his remarks today.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm privileged to be here with all of you today, and what I'll be touching upon is a very crucial topic, which is creativity. Now, let me go back to Leonardo da Vinci of Italy. Who was Da Vinci? If you look at the work of Da Vinci, right from Mona Lisa, the Vitruvian Man, and whatever Isaac Walterson talks about in terms of Da Vinci, he was an artist, he was a painter, he was an anatomist, he was a sculptor, he was a mathematician. He was also very good in writing stuff which was partly into the realm of science and partly into the realm of art. And if you look at his Vitruvian Man creation, the Vitruvian Man, which all of you have created, the man that stretches the hands like this and the legs at an open angle. The Vitruvian Man is a marvelous creation where Da Vinci took no less than 200 measures to come up to that amazing piece. It was a perfect man, and Da Vinci, for his proportions of the own body, was perfect, which is being depicted by Dan Brown's work. The point which I want to make here is Da Vinci and then Michelangelo and many of the Renaissance men, as we know them today, were scientists and artists. Fast forward to Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein once very famously said that if I was not a physicist, I would have been a violin player. From the age of 8, he was an extremely good violin player, and many of these artists and scientists, if you look at their lives, you realize that they never separated art and science in their mind. As a matter of fact, there is a professor at the Wharton Business School, University of Pennsylvania, Adam Grant. And Adam Grant writes in his book Originals, he studies Nobel laureates of the last 100 years, okay, in science, which is physics, chemistry, and medicine. And he studied 100 years Nobel laureates. And what he comes up with this understanding is that the Nobel Prize winners were at least 2 times to 22 times more likely to have an artistic hobby than their contemporaries. So for example, there are 2 professors in the same university. One of them goes on to win the Nobel Prize, another does not. The one who goes on to win a Nobel Prize was 22 times more likely to have an artistic hobby. An artistic hobby like playing drums. For example, many of these people were into writing poems, short plays, and it was not the excuse from doing hard work that they took that. As a matter of fact, many of their marvelous insights came from the artistic hobbies that they had. Fast forward to today. What are our children mostly engaged in? In coronavirus also, what they're waiting for is for the schools to open up so that they can cram in yet another year of material and who knows, change the world one day. Not necessarily. What we need to understand is that we need to develop both halves of our children's brain, and why not only children, us also. The left half and the right half. You see, the left half of our brain is essentially poised with things like logic, mathematics, calculations, whereas the right half is endowed with the ability of being artistic, intuition, and making sense of things which are not logical. A disproportionate amount of our education from a very early age, at least I can talk of India, and even the Montessori education, by the way, because in India we have caught up quite a bit on the Montessori education, but still our Montessori is quite pedestal if I compare to the rest of the world, especially if you look at the Nordic nations. Nordic are really good in terms of implementing Montessori, though Montessori came from Germany. If I look at the development of our children all the way to college and then into the job, we put a disproportionate amount of our effort into developing their left brain. We are all creating left-brained individuals. And what all of you would understand, and I don't need to even throw a hint, that if our absolute capabilities are in logic, pattern recognition, pattern matching, prediction, mathematics, then who is better than us? The answer is machines. Machines don't even get tired. So in today's world of artificial intelligence, we don't have to fear our fellow human beings. What we have to fear are the machines. And unlike us who need a generation to pass on the genes, all the machines need is a reboot. And many machines even get upgraded without a reboot. That's the level of sophistication that we are witnessing. And thanks to coronavirus, machines have almost become quite essential in terms of our livelihood, right from delivering machines to checking the essentials of the patients and delivering stuff on the roadside. The question is that can museums play that very, very important role in helping our children develop their right brain? Rightly so. And I remember going to Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., there is an avenue near Capitol where there are a bunch of museums and all of them are free. And what I was enamored by is the number of children who are there. Throughout the day, you see children and adults becoming children, me becoming child, and I could not have enough time. I was there for just 2 days and I could not have enough time to understand and appreciate and soak myself. Each museum out there, like the Air and Space Museum, for example, you have to spend an entire day to really appreciate what they have done. And that is for free. And that's one reason why America has become not only an economic superpower, but also an innovation superpower. So I think my concluding remarks would be 3 things. The first thing is we need to really, really develop our right brain. As Sir Ken Robinson, one of the most famous researchers in the space of education from Britain, and his remains the most watched TED Talk ever. The most watched TED Talk ever is of Ken Robinson, whose TED Talk is a tongue-in-cheek title, Do School Kills Creativity? And I can't but agree, schools do kill creativity the way we are teaching. And we are just digitizing whatever can be developed on the left brain. We are just digitizing our left brain, which is even worse, I suppose. Even worse. If I have to teach mathematics and I teach mathematics on a computer, that's even worse than teaching mathematics in a classroom. Because in a classroom, at least I have some physical artifacts that I can touch and feel and see and smell, so that I develop other senses, right? What Howard Gardner talks about as multiple intelligences. I can develop those multiple intelligences, minus which we are generating another sort of robots of carbon instead of robots of silicon. So the first thing is that we need museums to be open, to be accessible, and to be digitized so that more and more people can get benefited from it. I don't have to travel all the way to the US to understand and appreciate the Holocaust Museum. You know, a single visit to the Holocaust Museum will give shivers to you as to what we had in our history. And unless we understand history, as somebody very rightly said, we are repeating it. So that's the first point. We need to digitize museums so that we can develop our right brain. Not only our children's right brain, but our right brain, because we need to develop that. The second thing is the cost of access has to come down. One of the important things we advocate in creativity is diversity. The more countries, the more cultures I understand, the more becomes my ability to connect the dots. And as Steve Jobs very famously said, that you have to connect the dots only backwards, right? You can't connect the dots forward. What you can do forward is only plant the dots, plot the dots, which means that whenever I go to a new country, for example, I would love to go to, I mean, all of us would love to go somewhere once these lockdowns get lifted, but I do not know how much of that will be realized economically. But I would love to go to Eastern Europe and understand their culture. Now, I would not be able to possibly see the whole of Eastern Europe or the whole of Europe, but can it come to my doorstep in the most intuitive, most accessible manner so that I get a perspective? And that perspective is very, very critical. So there's a second point, so that we get perspective and we see the world through our own kaleidoscopes. And the third thing is that whenever you look at art, art makes you more tolerant. The difference between science and art is fundamental. Science does not leave any ambiguity. And art, on the other hand, is full of ambiguity. In science, Na plus Cl is equal to NaCl, period. Whether you do it, I do it, whether it happens in the US or it happens in India or South Africa, it ain't changing. But in art, it's all about subjectivity and perspective. When you look at art forms, you develop tolerance towards other person's point of view. And if anything, I'm sitting in India right now, and Piyush could second me because he was there till about a couple of months back. If anything, what we need in our societies is a lot more tolerance. Tolerance to a contrarian point of view, tolerance to something which are not validated yet, but which are exciting. Because if there are no diverse views, then you might as well take a dose and let computers manage the show, because they are infinitely more competent and they don't have mood swings on top of it. So broadening your perspectives, developing more tolerance, and third thing is allowing your right brain to develop are the three big calls in action for us to invest more in building museums and ensuring that these are accessible. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope it was useful.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan Soni. That was a very stimulating remarks by yourself. Next, we have our guest speaker joining us from New Delhi, India, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, a trained archaeologist and museologist born in a family of freedom fighters. He belongs to the first batch of the Institute of Archaeology of Archaeological Survey, India, New Delhi. He obtained BA History Honours from Bhagalpur University, Bhagalpur MA AIH and Archaeology from Patna University, Patna, and pursued PhD from the Jamia Millia Islamia University, New Delhi, on new archaeological remains of Chandela. He has completed in-service course in museology from National Museum, New Delhi, diploma in museology from National Folk Museum of Korea, Seoul, South Korea, short-term training at the V&A London, United Kingdom, PG diploma in journalism from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, New Delhi, Korean language from Sukmoyeon Women University, Seoul, South Korea, book publishing from Institute of Book Publishing, New Delhi, besides other trainings. I present to you Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh for his remarks.
Well, we all know about the museums and what is the museum, the role of the museums, why for museum are existing, why museum came in existence. I am not going to touch those aspects. I am going to touch the aspects of why museum objects are important so that it should be seen. Why? Because it has an essence, it has a realism, it has a historiographical mapping. So you have the development of development. You can see the development. That's why it deserves to be displayed and to be seen. Why it is to be seen? It is seen to because it has a history, it has a narration, it has a message. So if you have the real museum and you have the virtual museum is a digital form, as we know all. That digital form is that we have the 3D images and we are displaying it. But the real museum, you have the connections. You connect yourself. If you go there in the museums, you can see that, okay, this is the what. Say, for example, Man Mahal, right now you are going to show the small clip of the Man Mahal. I have experience of the Man Mahal. I was young, when I was child. My uncle was the superintending archaeologist of the Archaeological Survey of India. It was his in charge, and we are staying in the Man Mahal. That was a guest house. How it transformed into a museum and how the Prime Minister of India found it right place to be displayed. It's a location. Not only the building, its location. Where is it situated? It is just situated beside of Vishwanath temple. Opposite that, you have the Ganga. So you can view the Ganga, panoramic view of the Ganga. So in evening, you can see the Banaras Aarti. It's a transformation. So when you go there, so you are tapping the one spot or two. so that you can find out, oh, here is the place we can go and we can find out. And this, if you display the things in digital way, if you don't have the right or 3D or 2D objects in a real form, then it is a mesmerizing for the visitors. Okay, it's one perspective of the visitors. See, I'm saying that I have traveled all around the globe, and I have experienced that still real museum is real museum is required. Its relevance will not be lost, but museums are coming when you are not finding good time to not find good time to visit the museum in which is a real. So here the relevance of the virtual museum is also important, but virtual museum is like, I can give you the two experiences. We can see, we entertain ourselves by through drama, natak, and we cinema, movies. So we go for two things, but in cellulite, hello, in cinema you can only experience, the photographs are coming and you are enjoying. But if you are drama, you are seeing that one person is acting, he's the role of the Duryodhana, or he's the role of the Krishna, or he's the role of the or he is the role of the Ram. So you can feel it. His expression, you transform. You is what we call it. We have the term Atmasattvikaran. So you are personalized with those things. So you are the visuals. You are personalized the things. But in the digital images, there is a lacuna in that. You need an interpretation. You don't know. For example, I will like to show, if I am allowed. Here is the, can you see it? Here is the image. It's my latest book, Solar Singar. And here is the like Mohini. Here is the Mohini. Mohini has a narration. It is Mohini is for many it is a aesthetic. It is a beautiful lady. But if you see the philosophy, Mohini is the roop of the Vishnu. Vishnu has taken the form of that. So like that, if you see the Singara, here the Krishna and Radha is doing. Krishna is tying the hair of the Radha. So here you are just feeling that, oh, I am seeing it. Seeing the photograph, it won't give you that kind of interest and imaginary connections. So connection is important. Connection is very important if you want to be there. So virtual museums are being erupting all around the globe, but narrations are lacking. So what I am suggesting is relevance will be more proper, more accurate, more visible, more acceptable when it has a definite, it is technology used properly. Otherwise, if you take the photograph, you have the Photoshop, and you can, it is a linear object, you can make it the bulky. You have the bulky object, you can condense it. So there is a lacuna in that, where the virtual, and what we are experiencing. I'm telling you through the experiences we have in the national. I'm working in the National Museum, and also I work with the Indian Museum Kolkata. And being through my training, I have traveled a different way. We have seen it. The meaning are going to change if you are digitally using. So digital is important to. It is a replacement of real. It is a replacement of real, not the real. So there is a differences between that. So the relevance, and in India, in the Indian context, the virtual museum is a new concept. It is not yet taking the momentum. It is not have traveling or started to grow. It is growing. First, it is documented. It is you have the video photography. You have a 3D photography. Now you go for the 3D photography. Now we have launching different kind of platforms. We have the different technology, and definitely technology should be used to educate the people, to entertain the people. What the definition of the ICOM is: to educate, to study, the entertainment. The three aspects are there. So these three aspects can be imparted by this digital platform, digital we call the virtual platform or virtual museum. But at the same time, I have a suggestion, I have a submission towards all the thinkers, towards all people, those who are concerned with the business, that they should take note of that. The things should be produced as it is, as it is. If there is any addition or deletion, the sanctity of the particular object, the sanctity of particular expression will be defeated. So I believe that the relevance of virtual museum is a practically and globally accepted due to advent of the technology. But at the same time, precautions are required to be taken note of. And these notes, if the corrections are there, then you can do the wonders. They can do in the wonder. I will say an experience of the Korea. When I was in Korea, there is a small place called Mapoko, very remote place from the Seoul, and they have a Confucius museum. They have the Confucius museum. They have two. The reality, you have the object, and the digital media. That how the Confucius, how the teacher is coming, how the pupil are like sitting, how they will respond to the teacher. Who will speak first? The teacher. How to raise the question? How they will answer? So digital platforms are used. So when these are transformed in the society, those who are not able to visit the particular museum, then it has a relevance. So here the accuracy of telling narration, what is that is ultimately all objects tell its story, and museum is telling the stories only. And that is your past, that is your contemporary. If it is a contemporary museum, it is like a contemporariness of that. So every time you visit, so digital platform and the virtual museums are required to expand the wings of the museum, not to be felt that it is the sole solution of the real museum. It is a replacement of the real museum. So here we have a point. We have a point that we should have blend of two. So like that, educational outreach program should go through digital, but people should be invited to feel it there on a spot. If you see the dancing girl of the Harappa industrial civilization we have in our position in the National Museum. I have just I published a book. We have a tiny object of Mother God. First breastfeeding mother we have from the industrial civilization. Nobody was taking, but when you feel there, if you go there, you will feel it. Oh my God, it is this is the first one, when on the basis of which the UN has propounded their theory, breastfeeding is the best feeding. So I have said in a lecture in China that what people are thinking today, we have thought 8,000 years ago. Not only thought, we have transformed it. So here is the feeling, your attachment when you see the object on the spot. But in virtual way, only there will no soul. It will be imaginary. There will be no soul. We cannot personalize. As good as that. If you see the cinema, if you go to cinema, you that time you entertain, you engross in the feelings. But the moment you come out from the cinema hall, you forget everything. But if you go to drama, you know that he is the man. He is Nasruddin Shah. He is Raj Babbar. He is the Kapoor. He is the Raj Kapoor who has played the role of so and so and so forth. Like that. So with this note, I believe that there should be a blend. Relevance is virtual museum is a requirement of time, because nobody has a time in the life. So they want to go through the mobile, and they can see it like if any place, anywhere. See a lover is waiting in the on the chowpatty. He can wait. See her lover is not coming. He is late or he is late. So he can entertain themselves by visiting the museum, which is a nearby or the world renowned museum. But at the same time, when both hand to hand, moving to the Chhatrapati Shivaji Vastu Sangrahalaya in Mumbai, or National Gallery. He is in India Gate, and moving to the National Gallery of Modern Art and seeing the Subhas Gupta's famous painting, or other Amrita Sergil, or Suja, or Raja. So they feel that here is where I'm enjoying. So I have the opinion. I have considered opinion that this relevance is there, but it should be used in using the sense of appreciation of the objects. Then we will be real and virtual will be balanced. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, for your insightful remarks. Our next speaker, joining us all the way from Grotville, KwaZulu-Natal, is Director Mr. Brian Zaba. Mr. Brian Zaba is the director of the Luthuli Museum, which is based at the original home of the Chief Albert Luthuli in Grotville, Kwaduguza, on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal province, South Africa. Chief Albert Luthuli was the first African Nobel Peace Laureate in 1960 and was one of the esteemed leaders in the struggle for freedom in South Africa. The museum, established in 2004, is dedicated to research, collection, preservation, and promotion of his life and legacy. This is achieved through collection, education, and outreach programs, exhibitions, research, and publishing, and events. His involvement in the heritage of arts and culture sector spans for almost 20 years in various fields and levels of responsibility. This includes roles as project manager in the National Department of Arts and Culture, National Legacy Projects Unit, education officer, and tour guide for local museums. He has been involved in various heritage projects on establishing new museums, monuments, and memorials in South Africa, and holds a BA in Social Science and Honours degree in History. I present to you Mr. Brian Zaba for his remarks.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Thank you very much for the introduction, but also, Shristi, to say that thank you for the invitation to be part and parcel of this esteemed panel that you've put together. We are really, personally, I'm also very much honored to actually get to participate. And all I can say is that we need to understand that actually virtual museums actually then are here to stay. They are basically going to become part and parcel of our building blocks in terms of how we deliver, or maybe how we actually deliver museum services to our public out there. And why I'm saying that is that our museum back in 2012, 2013, we began a project of digitizing our collections. That is basically the collection on Chief Luthuli and his life and the people around him. And for me, I was quite amazed actually by the, if I may say, the response when we got our reports actually from our ICT team, where we had people who actually shown interest. People as far as Kazakhstan and people as far as any part in Europe. I mean, when you get those reports, then you start to see that actually then the people's inclination or a person's in interest in the other or in other people in other cultures, or maybe the inclination or the interest in cultural exchanges is basically a human trait, a human, what we cannot actually divorce from our existence and from our lives. And that project basically is still going on, and we are still seeing actually then great progress in as far as interest, developing interest. But again, if I may say that we are still in the process of graduating to what we will call virtual museums that actually we've spoken about, in as far as basically creating that whole environment that you'll find if you go to the Smithsonian actually website, if you go to the Robben Island Museum, if you go to the Vatican Museum, actually, then you can be there while being here in South Africa by actually just a click of a mouse. Now, that is actually what museums are about, if I may say that. It's about, as I think everybody has said earlier on, that they're about building bridges, about actually creating exchanges and all of that. That's why I'm thinking that basically it's going to become important that each and every museum, especially in our country, because we haven't actually caught up in that mass, maybe that much in as far as actually then making them integral, being part and parcel of our strategic imperative. But in as far as going forward, they are going to become they're going to become part and parcel of our delivery system. Now, as I've spoken about the challenges that we have, you will speak about basically data. You'll speak about the whole infrastructure in as far as to deliver on virtual museums. And they've spoken also about, if I may say, the current situation, the global epidemic, which is actually going to be, well, what it means is that we have no choice. We actually have to basically to quicken our move towards actually virtual museums if we are to maintain our relevance. But it's not our relevance as museum for museum's sake, but I believe that under the situation now that we find ourselves, where actually then possibly social distancing is going to become a norm again, or where we see a situation where actual traveling is going to become basically kind of restricted, we need to actually to invest more effort and actually more of our efforts and basically our resources in actually in virtual museums, not only in terms of actually to provide information or to educate people out there, but actually to sustain people's interest in as far as museums or our respective museums, the existence of museums. Is to basically in the world currently we've got this, we are expecting our museum, we are anticipating that we will not be having tours or having school groups having tours possibly for the next 6 months up to a year because of the current situation. Now here's an opportunity for most of us as museums. That's why I'm saying virtual museums now come to life, and we need to basically to invest in that. And actually then the investment should not be, and I'm speaking basically from us as South Africa, the investment should not actually be restricted or be limited only to museums, individual museums, but I think there needs to be basically a national campaign whereby our sector begins to actually to identify actually virtual museums or actually like virtual technology as an imperative in as far as basically sustaining museums actually going forward beyond actually our borders, but then also not only beyond our borders, but also to beyond actually, should I put it like this, to cover actually then the growing changes within our society in as far as the millennial generation is concerned. Because this is another sector or another group of people who actually for them, access to anything in life is basically through the medium of information technology. So as on that, with those brief basically comments, I would like to say that basically then virtual museums are here actually basically to stay, and we need to basically to push more and to invest more in that. And I think as actually with your introduction, our museum is not actually, well, it's fairly new. So we are on a journey as the Luthuli Museum in as far as promoting the life of this remarkable man, Chief Albert Luthuli. So then virtual museums will have, this basically provides an opportunity for organizations like ourselves. I want to close on that score. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brian Zauber, for your remarkable insight on museums. We've come to the cultural segment of today's program, and my colleague, Ms. Kavita Solanki, is going to sing a really beautiful song. I'm just going to take a few minutes to just translate what her song means. Her song is entitled Let Us Remember, and it talks about remembering our world and that society is our prime duty to always be awake and aware of our objective goal, and let us always swim against the current pain and sorrows we are facing. And I think the song is very apt in today's times, and obviously, like all museums, there's a lot of history and a lot of pain and struggle that goes into it. And without further ado, I present to you Ms. Kavita Solanki for her song rendition.
Thank you, Shishti. Namaskar, everyone. मनसा सततं स्मरणीया वचसा सततं वदनीयम् लोकहितं मम करणीयम् लोकहितं मम करणीयम् न भोगभवने रमणीयम् न च सुखशयने शयनीयम् अहर्निशं जागरणीयम् अहर्निशं जागरणीयम् न जातु दुःखं गमनीयम् न च निजसौख्यं मननीयम् कार्यक्षेत्रे त्वरणीयम् कार्यक्षेत्रे त्वरणीयम् दुःखसागरे तरणीयम् कष्टपर्वते चरणीयम् विपत्तिविपने भ्रमणीयम् विपत्तिविपने भ्रमणीयम् गहनारण्ये घनान्धकारे बन्धुजनाये स्थिता गह्वरे तत्र मया सञ्चरणीयम् तत्र मया सञ्चरणीयम् लोकहितं मम करणीयम् मनसा सततं स्मरणीयम् वचसा सततं वदनीयम् लोकहितं मम करणीयम् लोकहितं मम करणीयम् Thank you. धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much, Kavita ji, for that melodious song. We've come to the last segment of our program, and our guest speaker today on this last segment is Mr. Advait Gadnayak. Sir is the Director General of the National Gallery, New Delhi, of Modern Art. He heads the School of Sculpture at the KIIT University, he was born in Dinakal and pursued his postgraduate at the Slade School of Fine Arts in London. I present to you Mr. Advait Gadnayak.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So happy Museum Day. Everybody is talking so many things. How it will be the museum, what will be the virtual museum, what will be the real museum. So many things. So one thing I remember, actually the relation recently we are celebrating 150 years of Gandhi. थोड़ा हिंदी में बोलता हूँ. गांधी जी आर्टिस्ट से बात कर रहे हैं. आपको झाड़ू लगाना आता है? अगर झाड़ू लगाना आता है तो कर्व में झाड़ू लगाते हैं ना स्ट्रेट झाड़ू लगाते हैं? पहले झाड़ के आगे लेते ना बाद में झाड़ते? नंदलाल बोस, one of the renowned artists from Santiniketan, he was talking like this, very small things about how we create some things behind small things. Everybody thinks should be, this is my museum, and they can feel it. You know, we are planning so many things. Museum like education center, it can interaction center, it can whatever. It will be, actually when I was also student in Slade School of Fine Art, I used to, my class used to be in the British Museum, Tate Gallery, all the museums. I could not imagine when I was student. I was surprised. So class is going on or something is happening. So museum is a space. It is not a only space. It's like a soul. You know, everything can happening there. Politics, philosophy, spiritual, whatever. Actually, now the Corona times, everybody's thinking different way. You know, somebody's maybe some. Actually, museum can come closer. Everything can come to nearer. It will be the space which will be, so actually the Corona period special, all the artists, I am a sculptor. I can feel so many pain, I can't walk. You have to go outside to work. It's not possible. So in museum and artists, when they think in Corona period, it's actually very painful. So we are planning something more lightly. You can, how are you? Today, what you are planning? Today, have you draw something? So many things we are discussing with artists, with friends, so many writer, philosopher, what should be possible to future. Actually, I think after, I don't know, the Corona scenario, when it will be finished, the artist will be plan something in different way. The museum will be different. I don't know all the things, but still the virtual things, it will be something like very difficult. It's something like you can use in education, you can use in the promotion, you can use the document, whatever plan you are doing, it's okay. But real thing, I think after some period, it will be outside museum. We have to move. Sometimes the collection is very difficult for us. Some artists, they are working in different way, different medium, all the things. It is very difficult to preserve also. So now its time is coming. We have to move outside, and you can feel it. One is culture. You can embrace it. You can touch it. You can kiss it. You can kick it. Whatever you like. You can actually. If you imagine Ajanta and Ellora, forget about the making section, whoever imagine it, whoever imagineering it was so vast. Anybody can come and feel it. The sixth sense. We need the closer. Actually, I am a stone carver. When I carve stone, if you go in our planet, I feel it's like a oldest family member. He knows everything about me. One layer can speak lots of things. So when you go to closer, you can feel it. You can touch it. You can actually. That's the time is coming. Public also want. They can come to closer to art. Sometimes in museum we write down, don't touch it. But public want to closer. They can feel it. So now the contemporary artists, they are planning to go outside into something huge, sculpture, huge installation, everything is happening. So now its time is coming. We should come out from the boundary of museum. It will be, I don't know what will happen, but it should be something different after Corona. In Delhi also we are planning so many things. Government also planning, and how can I speak? Actually, all the things already, all the speaker have listened all the things, but one thing, this is the difficult time for the world. Sometimes artists think in this period I can work so many things, but it's very difficult to work myself also. So pray to God, save our culture, save our society. So it is my prayer to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your concluding remarks. For the last part of our program is a vote of thanks, and I'd like to ask my esteemed colleague, Ms. Cheryl Banwarilal, to render the vote of thanks for today's program.
On behalf of the Swami Vivekananda Cultural Center, Consulate General of India in Durban, I would like to express our gratitude and thank you to Mr. Amit Kalia from India I would like to say huge thank you and express our gratitude to our guest speakers, Mr. Siyabonga Hadebe from Durban, South Africa, Dr. Pawan Soni from India, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Singh, New Delhi, India, and Mr. Brian Kaba, Gautpur, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to join us today. I would like to express our deep gratitude and thank you to our guest speaker, Mr. Advait Gadnayak, for sharing your knowledge and taking time off your busy schedule to join us. I would like to thank Ms. Kavita Solanki for the beautiful song and Ms. Shasti Harinarayan for being our lovely MC. I would like to thank Mr. Piyush Kandawal for all the technical support and making all our online programs a success. Kindly follow us on all our social media pages for all our upcoming events. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you.